Diabetes is a serious chronic health threat.
Diabetes. Type 2 diabetes.
With diabetes.
Type 1 diabetes.
Diabetes. About diabetes.
Diabetes.
Anything can go wrong.
Pre-diabetes.
Diabetes.
It's amazing how much everything affects your blood sugar. I grew up in Prince George, from up north. I was really active, and then 18, I got married and moved down here. And I've been here ever since, and I have not wanted to move back.
Oh, you like extra.
I love it. The area is so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Don't have far to go to many lakes and stuff, so yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Won't go anywhere farther than a few miles, I doubt.
Totally extraordinary.
I was diagnosed here, and I can't even remember the year because it was like they warned me. They gave me so many different warnings of saying you have to get your sugars under control, but it really never meant anything to me. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But really, it was a lot of denial. It was like, okay, so I have to get my sugars down. I shouldn't be eating this and this, but it really didn't mean very much to me.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I'm feeling like I am dropping at this moment. I'm starting to get sweaty again.
Go grab something. Yeah.
So I'm just going to
go
grab and test.
Yeah,
and
of course.
yeah, I'm definitely dropping again. I'm at a 3.8.
Oh wow. Yeah. That's quick how fast that
Yeah.
Do you want me to get you some juice?
I think I'm gonna grab a chocolate bar.
Denise,
Yeah, I'm
excited for her
definitely
interview,
using it.
inadvertently skipped a meal after injecting insulin. This caused her blood sugars to drop to dangerous levels, a process called hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia can cause noticeable symptoms and, if untreated, may lead to coma and death. Because her blood sugars were less than 4, she took 15 grams of a fast-acting simple sugar to increase her blood sugars within 15 minutes. Once it came up above 4, she had a meal with complex carbohydrates to maintain her sugar levels. Otherwise, she would have had to take another 15 grams of rapid sugar every 15 minutes, take glucagon if she became unconscious, or call 911.
It's such a hard,
Yeah.
but I can definitely feel myself. It's like the blackness on the outside, and then everything just sort of. It just happens so fast, and it's like I have such a hard time getting it up there. I actually think I'm starting to spin a little bit. It's really interesting how it's like doing the I'm sorry, I'm having trouble concentrating. So hard because I don't know, and it's like I go low, and then it's like I wish I could get people inside of my head and my body,
Yeah.
and to actually feel how it is. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's like being in the dark. It's hard to deal with. And yeah, and then I freak out. Yeah, well, I forget. It's so hard. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do with the yeah. And then I get scared. Sorry, I'm just having a lot of trouble focusing right now. And then my heart goes kerpa-thump.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit better. I'm still sweating though.
But
It is so hard and to get all that together.
Yeah.
And your exercise affects it. I mean, if you're having a good day and you're going good and you're using all the energy that you normally use, it's great. But then it's like one little hiccup and it just snowballs. It's hard to stop the snowballing.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to recover.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, a lot of people don't understand that it's like a brain fog and your body is just trying to like process, and then things are shutting down and you lose like basic thought, like, okay, I need to get sugar, but I actually have to open this package and I have to actually get it into my mouth. And because you could just sit there and look at it. I've done that. I'm just like, okay, I got to drink this. Okay, drink. It's like, with that low, it was extreme. With the change of medications, I've only had a few like that. It really depends, your lows, how much insulin you're taking, which you have to look at your body weight, how you're feeling, if you're feeling healthy. If you're feeling healthy, your body can react a lot better to things. And so the blood sugar doesn't seem to bother it so much. But then when you look back, it's like, so was it the blood sugar that was the issue? Or was it anything else that was happening? If I was sick, if I was stressed, if anything else was happening. It's like, so was it this or was it this? Was it the chicken or the egg? I have had to learn to think ahead because, have you seen, as you saw, when I do have a low, I totally lose comprehension. It's like, okay, I need some sugar. And so I think sugar, and my brain goes off in a whole, instead of getting up, going and finding something with sugar in it, I'm thinking sugar. Okay, well, I should mix this and this. And so I'm sitting there for 5 minutes. And meanwhile, my blood sugar is crashing and I'm crashing. And people are asking me, well, how can I help you? And it's like, I don't know. I have a plan. It's in the cupboard. So it can be really scary. It's like, you have to plan ahead so you can help yourself and have others help you. And it's horrible because you feel so out of control. Like you have no control on what's going on.
Low blood sugars, as we know, is that if they're not treated immediately, they will go unconscious and they will die. So it's a real fear, and it's a grounded fear. A lot of families get really afraid at nighttime, right? That they have this grounded fear that my kid might not wake up the next day. So that would be a horrible thing to live with. CGMs have really given family the ability to sleep all night and given them some peace, but that fear is always in the back of their mind, always. And I don't think it will ever go away. Insulin is kind of like a key to a lock. When you eat carbohydrates, all your fruits and all your grains, it gets broken down into sugar or glucose, and it just kind of floats around in your bloodstream. Insulin comes out of your pancreas and goes, oh, there's some sugar in your bloodstream, and it opens up all your cell doors so that the sugar can actually go in and be used for energy. So all the glucose, their sugar just gets trapped in their bloodstream. They can't access it. They can't get it into their organs and tissues.
So I thought I could handle it. It was like, okay, the fast-acting insulin is the best because it'll control it quicker. But it's actually the long-lasting insulin that helps you maintain. And the short stuff is just for the corrections. Well, I didn't process that. So I wasn't even half the time taking my long-lasting insulin because I didn't think it was that important. But it's like, that's the baseline. Even your different food values factor into your blood sugar. Some people think, oh, that should be easy. But if you work shift work, if you have anything else happening in your life, you have to factor that in, because that's just a little part of a whole person's life, but it's a big part. When you have underlying conditions, it's like the diabetes just adds an extra layer to the issue of trying to deal with it, because your body isn't reacting the way it normally should. And so when you're down or when you're sick, the sugars go crazy, but you're more thinking about how to cure the flu or whatever. And you're not thinking, okay, well, I'm sick, I can't eat. I'm fine, I'm not eating. I don't have to worry about extra blood sugar because I'm not eating. Until you realize your blood sugar just keeps going up when you're not eating, and it's processing other things out of your body. And so your sugars just keep going up, 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 even though you're not eating. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not eating, so how could my blood sugars? So it's like a whole different process in your brain that you have to figure out.
There's a close relationship between insulin and blood sugar in the body. When we eat carbohydrates throughout the day, it gets converted to blood sugar. That blood sugar gets put into our bloodstream. That gives us the energy that we need to survive. The purpose of insulin is to take that blood sugar and put it into the cells where we can use for energy, or put it into the muscles and liver where we can store it and release that sugar slowly throughout the day, giving us the energy that we need in between meal times. When we can't store that blood sugar and we can't burn it up because we're not exercising, then it starts to create a problem where we have something called hyperglycemia, because our blood sugar is too high and it gets locked up in our bloodstreams. So the key here is balance. If we can eat a healthy diet full of nutritious foods that have a low amount of simple refined sugars, then our pancreas has an easier job to produce enough insulin to get the job done. If we eat too much sugar, we need to produce a lot more insulin to kind of match that. And that can start to lead to problems where we actually reduce our pancreatic function through cell death in our pancreas, as well as cause an insulin resistance where the insulin that we do produce, it doesn't work as good as it used to.
Once you become a frequent exerciser, you can see people start taking less insulin to manage their condition. And for those that are on medications, they can start managing with less medications or less dosage. And then some people even manage to get off those medications, especially those with type 2 diabetes. Physical exercise has been shown to be just as effective as some medications in treating diabetics.
You try one medication, it doesn't mean that there's other medication that you can try. It doesn't have to be, you have to be on metformin. You can be on a different one. There's even, or if you don't like needles, you don't have to be on insulin. And I think that's one other thing too is, and maybe a little bit of fear associated with it too, is if you aren't making those diet and lifestyle changes while being on the diabetes medications, you are having to check your blood sugar more often. You're having to give yourself needles. And for the most part, we're recommending it because we want to help you. It's not because, we're like, oh, well, just give them a pill, so they're out of my clinic or whatever. No, it's because we're trying to help you. We're trying to prevent strokes, heart attacks, losing your foot, that kind of stuff.
You really have to work with the diabetes people. They know what they're talking about. You may think, oh, well, my body's, I can do this. That's what I thought. I went from being so good physically, mentally, and then I just went, if I would have listened and actually comprehended what effect it all had by just not being able to control my diet. But it's not just your diet, because stress, it's amazing what things go into making your body react.
So what is considered good control? How do we know if the number that we're looking at is healthy or if it's looking a little bit high? Well, for that, we should really individualize those targets with our health practitioners, because what's healthy for some person might be dangerous for another. But in general, we take a look at one or more of three main tests. The first one being the A1C. A1C shows the percentage of our red blood cells that have sugar attached to them. And this indicates how our control is over a 3-month period. So we try first with diet exercise. So there's quite a bit of leeway there. But if that's unmaintainable, then we have to start adding medications to help bring that down. The other thing that we look at is our fasting blood glucose, which is determined after at least 8 hours without eating or drinking. The third test, essentially we just give you 75 grams of glucose. We wait 2 hours to see how your body handles that, retest, and make sure that your levels come back in a normal range. Now, once we're diagnosed with diabetes, we will try to keep our A1C less than 7. However, if we can get less than 6.5, it actually shows more resistance against retinopathy in our eyes and nephropathy in our kidneys. So we try to go for that more aggressive target if we can do it safely. With our fasting blood sugars, we try to stay between 4 and 7. And after eating, 2 hours after we have a meal, we try to stay between 5 and 10, which we give a little bit more stricter targets if we're not meeting our glycemic control in general. When we're not meeting our targets, we take a look at medications. And when it comes down to medications, I like to explain it in 2 different groups. There's medications that increase insulin production and medications that increase insulin's action. So for increasing production, there's certain medications that squeeze a little bit more insulin out of the pancreas, or what we can do is just inject insulin into our cells and increase our amount that way. The ones that actually help with the action of insulin, make it work more effectively, could either work on insulin resistance, in the case of metformin, that actually makes the insulin that our bodies still will produce more effective, or we can look at other medications that are more tailored to people with underlying cardiac disease or some of those comorbidities. One of the biggest advancements lately in diabetes self-management is our ability to now monitor our blood glucose continuously throughout the day. This is opposed to poking your finger and taking a blood sample every time that you wanted to check in and see where your blood sugars are sitting. So the last 10 days I actually put a continuous glucose monitor on myself, and we can take a look at the results here. Because I don't have diabetes, I was in range 100% of the time. The average blood glucose was in range. The average A1C calculated with my blood sugars were in range too. Coefficient of variation just shows how tight of a control that you have. And you can see that my average is actually pretty consistent throughout the day, meaning that my pancreas was able to kick in every time that it noticed extra blood sugar. And when my sugar was dropping, like in times of exercise, my liver and muscles were able to put more sugar in my bloodstream to meet demands. There were some highs and some lows because there's always a little bit of variance depending on what you eat. So let's compare to another one of my patients here. You can see he's in range, which is excellent. He's a few highs, but his average blood glucose is normal. His calculated A1C was pretty good. His coefficient of variation is a little higher than mine because he has to actually inject with insulin, whereas my pancreas keeps that in check. And his average is actually all in range, which is excellent. He has a few highs, especially around supper time, and some lows too, depending on what he's eating, but nothing in the hypoglycemic range. So we can compare to see how he's doing about a year ago before we really took control of his blood sugars here. And you can see he was only in range about 28% of the time. And pretty much the rest of the time he was sitting quite high. And you can see that average is always sitting above the line. He was seeing some very, very high readings and some lower ones that are actually in target. We changed his insulin and changed up his medications to keep better control of that and get him right where we want to be.
Supplies aren't free, right? At my job, I can get, like when I work with kiddos with special needs, I can get them a free housekeeper to clean their house, but I can't give them a free pump, right? Like how does that work in BC where you're a life-saving medication, it's not 100% covered? Yeah, and it's just not the supplies, there's just cost to having diabetes. They all need to wear fanny packs, right? Because they all have to put their cell phones into their fanny packs. They all have to have an entire school bin full of expensive high-end granola bars and juice boxes and sugars. That all adds to their expenses and none of it's covered.
Do you have any idea how much it costs to be a diabetic? So many pills, different insulins. It's incredible. And they are trying to make it a little easier, but at the same way, it's like we're not confronting the main issue, which is our food and nutrition, our exercise, how we relate to people with issues. We don't have to medicate everybody for everything. If we had people that would be happy to go walk with a person, to help them with their blood sugars, or to just be there to help them eat properly, what a different world this would be. The doctor's like, okay, you got to get your sugars down. It's like, okay, so I use the insulin a little bit more, and then didn't have enough money to pay for the cost of the insulin. And in my brain, it's like, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. So I would skip doses. It's like, well, I just won't eat. And so then I'd have a low, and then I'd have a high. And so work was like, what can we do to help you? And it's like, I don't know. I can't even help myself. I'm still trying to figure this out. And they're like, well, we can't have you here. It's definitely hard because I'm at a point where I have to prove I can go back to work, or they're going to put me on long-term disability. And that scares the crap out of me because I have no idea how my medications are going to work. Am I going to be covered? How much money am I going to make? I mean, I've worked hard, but I haven't saved anything. I put everything into just living, right? And then with medications changing and finding out that certain insulins, I've had to change my insulins a few times. And now I'm back on the more expensive one, but it seems to be more beneficial for me. So again, it's like that old saying, do I want to eat or do I want to have power this month? I thought I could do it myself, and I wasn't listening to people who knew that this is going to go sideways. And if you don't do this, and I'm like, yeah, I got this, no worries. Yeah, didn't have that. It's like, yes, it can be dealt with. Yeah, we can do it, but it takes that one step. You have to take the first step. You plan a journey, you want to do something in life, you have to take that first step. But you also have to have a focus of where is that going to go. And that's what you have to do. You have to keep working. It's not like you can just give up. And that's one thing. You have to stay on it. Just like every day in life, you have to be there. Be present. Be active in what you want to accomplish. You want good health, you have to be active in that. You have to do the right things. And there are people out there who want to help. So, just do it.
Thanks for joining us as we explored insulin's function in the body, as well as some socioeconomic issues that people with diabetes are faced with. Come join us in the next episode where we discuss cardiovascular disease and diabetes. We will go head-to-head in the gym with one of my patients who has had a heart attack, then turned her life and health around, and learned to live well with diabetes.